You know how old I am, chat?
Like, okay, Hugo is at least like what, 8 million? Okay, like the Big Bang, for those who don't know, it was Atrioc, God, Hugs, and Biden. That's who was at the Big Bang. For those who don't know, that's like the established like Big Bang lore from like my POV. Hey everybody. So recently across the Super Smash Bros. Scene, there's been a lot of questions about whether events should be going on right now because of current concerns around COVID, the Omicron variant's kind of going through the scene, and I've seen a lot of discussion on Twitter, Facebook groups, even here and there, mostly and more recently on YouTube videos, people been kind of going on about the topic. And there was a video that I saw from someone that I follow in the community, Hugs86, who I want to take a look at their video specifically and kind of see what like their thoughts are. They had a really good Twitter thread, like kind of like giving like the blunt description of it. And I want to see like more what the video he had to say on his stream. It's about a 14-minute video. I'm gonna switch over to it right about now.
On with COVID. Basically, I made this tweet because a specific reason. What's happening with the world right now really fucking sucks. And I think that it is especially hard on tournament organizers. However, I realized through some of the things I've been reading that a lot of people don't actually realize that it's not on the tournament organizer's hand. And I realized that a lot of the anger and comments that were being tweeted about events continuing on in light of the more recent COVID scares, I realized that those people might not be aware that it's not on the TOs for the most part. And so I wanted to put out this PSA. I'm not mad at the people saying like, you know what? X event is too dangerous, don't go. Or
So yeah, basically the gist that I'm hearing, and I agree with this absolutely too, because as someone who has helped run events and like talked to a lot of different TOs, mostly here in New England and kind of outside the region, yeah, it's a good point. So the context here, I think, the big one is Genesis, the event I was supposed to go to in San Jose in about, I think, 3 weeks. Is it 3 weeks? But roughly, yeah, 3 weeks from tomorrow, I would have flew out, or I think the event would have started. And I pulled out mostly because of a huge Omicron surge, and a lot of people were kind of like discussing it. And I think we're still in a point where it's still kind of running wild, especially over in NorCal. So yeah, it's definitely like really making things like even like for like a day by day basis, making things really monka and really tense. So like imagine that with that kind of scale of like at least like a minimum 4K person event. Like it makes people like, it can really send like some uneasy vibes. It makes you feel like you just don't want to go. It makes you feel not just feel safe. And this first tweet that we see from Hugs here says PSA: when an event is planned in advance and the COVID situation changes, the TO is usually at the mercy of the city ordinances, where a venue won't simply refund the TOs for a canceled event unless the city forces them to shut it down. Canceled event could mean instant crippling. Yeah, so the TO of the event, so Genesis here, the TO is Sheridan, also known as Dr. Z in the Smash scene. His hands are really tight right now because he has to fulfill a contract with the agreed venue they have in San Jose. And if they were to pull out of that in any way, that would just like cause what it mentions there, and like crippling debt and like the production that goes in to an event like Genesis, which is like probably hundreds of thousands of dollars. If I had to guess, I don't want to guess the exact number because that's probably more confidential information I don't want to like go too hard into. But that just puts like the head TOs and staff behind Genesis itself in like a huge debt situation that they do not want to find themselves in. Like that's like the immediate thing we need to think about here, and like why they can't just like say, "Hey, this is gonna happen. We're gonna move. We're not gonna do it this year. We'll see what happens for the next year." Blah blah blah.
too often I see talk about the irresponsibility of an event still running. I think there should be some sympathy for the fact that oftentimes a TO's hands are completely tied. The best they could do is to, bring up their safety measures. High key, venues are a disgusting business.
Yeah, venues like, especially when you change a venue from like one major to another. Like this happened with both Genesis, more recently going back to San Jose, and like more locally, here in New England, our event Shine, which is our annual major. Like we had to move from like Seaport in Boston, one of the nicest parts in all of Boston here, to Worcester, Mass, which is like Western Mass. It's a nice area, but it's a whole different aspect change. But venue stuff can be really disgusting from like both the sanitary part of it, but also like the negotiation part, because there's going to be contracts, agreements, terms, especially if you have like a bad first year and you don't want to go back. The mentality for the next year is going to be so rough. You just don't want to go back there and fulfill that contract for the next year. I think like And when Hugs mentions the safety measures, Genesis has a safety measures page on their website. So Genesis is what they've done since Big Omi has kind of gone wild. So what are the big ones that they got here? Yeah, so the first immediate one, it's a one that kind of goes inside with the city of San Jose. They do require proof of vaccination for every single attendee. Like a negative test won't cut it. You need to also have both. You need the base vaccine. You don't need the booster, but they're highly encouraging it, from what I understand. And they have the simple mask mandate to be worn inside at all times. Totally valid. That's kind of thing that should be at every event, no matter the size or scale of it. So that's a good start. But that's like the biggest one you haven't really seen a lot of majors do. When I went to Super Smash Con Fall Fest back in October, the rule there was that they only would take proof of vaccination and or a negative test. So you, in theory, could go there as long as you were just had no COVID and not have either shot. Which was, I mean, at the time in October, Big Omi wasn't a thing. It was still kind of during the Delta wave, which wasn't really that bad at that point because it was more of a scare when it first popped up in like the late summertime. It even says right here, like in big text, a recent negative test is not sufficient to enter any venue associated with or any space allocated to G8, which is valid. Smash Ultra did a terrible job of handling COVID, in my opinion, and I've heard that from other people as well. And I was in a call last night with some of the guys during One Up, and one of them there, shout out to Coz. He said he was lucky because like he knew people who got COVID that he interacted, but he was negative, and like they weren't wearing masks and shit. But like it's still like it can be pretty scary of how it can be. And Smash Ultra was not as big of an event as compared to Genesis. But like that's like where Genesis has kind of upped their safety protocol, and I feel like they're gonna do even more of it right now because since this video was posted, is this Twitter? Yeah, oh here it is. Genesis did throw out a COVID survey, which I took last night, and to kind of ask people like, "Hey, you still coming to Genesis? Could you explain why if you're not, if you want to, blah blah blah." It was a survey that kind of gauge where everyone was at. So they definitely are keeping their ear to the wall pretty well here, and I just kind of want to see them like kind of keep it going because they have 3 weeks to go until day one of the event, and yeah, they can't cancel it as I said. Because they have to fulfill the contract. That's the big thing.
So in that thread, we were talking about why don't we give that money instead to other events and blah blah blah, and then I was like, it's gonna go to venues, and venues are fucking shady and they're trash and they're really fucked up. They're fucked up business because Summit is a lot of like community people getting paid to do events and they make a profit, and that's great. They should for doing events. I think the premise behind the thread, one of the ideas was to like put it back into these other events, and then I'm just thinking, dog, that's
It's kind of like crowdfunding from Summit, which Summit already does, but they're trying to produce Summit itself. Because Summit is one of the highest produced events in all of like the Smash scene.
back to the community. That's just gonna go to these venues. It's just
Yeah, it's gonna go to the venue. Even with like Summit, that venue probably costs a lot of money to do, like for BTS standards. So they're gonna have to like put it back to them to make sure they can come back there in the future.
gonna go to some Holiday Inn somewhere where they end up like charging extra for some surprise fee that the TO just has to deal with, or their events get canceled, right?
Venues are scummy.
So let me just continue with the thread, right? High key venues are a disgusting business. If you feel your safety at the event isn't secured, don't go. If you can afford it, don't request a refund.
Which is what I'm doing with Genesis. I am not requesting refund with Genesis because they need the money more. Especially if people are going to be trying to get their own money back from an event they invested in. They need the money. They need it bad. This is like the event you probably want to donate to right now, considering everything they're going through. And all those TOs, they have to accommodate to a lot of different stuff. Not going to go on over it again. We already talked about it. Let's continue.
If you can't afford it. I really thought that people would get mad at this because I've made a tweet like this before where people are like, nah, fuck that. Why would I do that? Blah, blah. I made that when I didn't request a refund for CEO Dreamland. That was during the beginning.
That's when COVID started. God damn. That was, dude, who remembers CEO Dreamland? That was literally like the same week that COVID was declared a pandemic. I remember that tournament. I wasn't there, but I remember that. I definitely remember that tournament.
Beginning of the pandemic in 2020, I canceled and I told Jabali, I don't want a refund. Just keep the money. Like, it's really fucked up for Jabali. This isn't his fault, etc. I thought
Exactly. Like those are like uncertain times too. That was like we had no idea. This is like the pre-Slippy era too. Slippy wasn't a thing yet. We still had to go on and use Anther's ladder back then. We had no idea what was coming. Ooh, I remember.
People get mad at that part of this thread, but everyone's been receptive, so that's cool. I don't think most TOs deserve any blame in this, unless
They don't. I agree with that.
you know they're actually being blatantly irresponsible and doing nothing to up the safety for attendees, because there are locals and there are events that get run. For example, the ones that started during the pandemic, that shit. There are TOs who don't give a fuck about COVID, and they actively
Smash World Tour. I'm sorry, I had a cough there.
believe against science pretty much, and then they
This is where all the K-Konas come out. This is where all the K-Konas come out. You think I'm gonna make my local have mass? You damn commie.
blatantly try to run events. They don't care about masks. They don't do anything to try to care about attendees. And this is like in the thick of 2020, before the vaccines and shit. So those people deserve all the blame. But for the most part, when we're talking about big LAN events that have to deal with the COVID situation changing, a lot of times their hands are tied. But what they do is they do their best to up the safety of the event so that attendees can feel safer if they so choose to attend. And then lastly, I put in this. It's why you'll never see me post anything like, this event needs to be canceled. If you care about safety, you shouldn't go. I don't type that type of stuff. I don't. Because I truly believe that all it does is hurt the TO who can't do anything about it anyway. And then meanwhile, these venues are going to get their money no matter what.
I think like the comment about if you care about safety, you shouldn't go. I mean, it's definitely a valid thing to say. I think it depends. I think it depends who you talk to. I think it depends who you talk to. Like, yeah, it doesn't. I mean, I guess like, it depends the kind of TO it is too. Okay, yeah, like the TO, like the K Kona TOs of the world, they definitely will take. They probably they want your money anyway, and you should go because they don't care about the situation that they're in with everything going on right now. But I don't think it's like. I think it's fine to say that. I definitely said something amongst those lines in my tweet the other day when I announced I wasn't going to Genesis anymore. I'm not sure if you guys agree with that at all, but that's where we're at right now, considering like my thoughts on that. But it's a valid thing. I mean, it's not that big a deal. I think you're gonna read it no matter what, depending on where you are, like how the current standing of things are. But definitely a statement I'm gonna think a little bit more about.
I don't type that type of stuff.
We're not too far off.
Because I truly believe that all it does is hurt the TO who can't do anything about it anyway. And then meanwhile, these venues are going to get their money no matter what. I think
because the contract, I think that I kind of talked about earlier.
The TOs are dealing with enough. And then to see top players or influential people on Twitter talk shit about an event, they don't name TOs directly, but like just to suggest that the TOs are doing something irresponsible. I feel for the TOs because I know it's not on them. They're kind of stuck in this situation where
like they've kind of said in this video, their hands are tied. Like there's literally nothing they can really do to make like things better. They have to sit there and the weeks leading up, like what Sheridan's doing right now at Genesis, and pray that in some way things like improve, at least in some like small way, to attendees that are signed up right now feel good about going. But unfortunately, a lot of people have already pulled out, myself included, because I personally believe that it probably won't get better till like February, if we're lucky, with how it's looking right now here in the States. And then we might be able to get back to like reduced capacity IRL events, maybe like mid-February, early March. It really depends what happens though.
They have a contract or something along the lines of that. And the venue does not give a fuck about the safety of the people in the venue.
Scummy.
So long as they are covered legally, right? So if the city is not demanding that the event be shut down, then the venue is going to say, where's my money? I don't care if you don't run the event. We had a contract. We could have had a different event instead of you. Pay us the money, right?
Because you rented out the venue for that time period. The event still has to go on. If you cancel, that's a debt. You have to do it. Literally, like, what else are you going to do there? It is like some of the worst positions you could find yourself in, I feel like.
And again, it could be different in different situations. But from what I understand, that's how it is for a lot of TOs, and a lot of TOs have agreed with my sentiments. So I assume I'm kind of correct here. Venues will.
It's definitely it's a valid take. It's a valid take, and I think it's a pretty. It's a good like professional one because you're looking at the perspective of like what goes on behind the scenes, like stuff that players won't see. The only people who will really see like those discussions between the staff behind said event, like big or small, and the venue staff, the people behind the venue. That all happens behind the scenes. Like that's really also confidential stuff, considering like the rent fees, the guidelines they have to follow for the event, especially during COVID. So yeah, you won't see much of it there.
Will not give a shit about what's going on with COVID. They do not care. If the city doesn't deem it necessary to shut down the event, then the event has to continue. And then so you got two options, right? The TO's got two options. They run the event and they try their best to make it as safe as possible, or they cancel the whole event. They still have to pay the venue out of pocket, and that's in the tens of thousands. Literally life-ending, crippling debt. Not literally, they won't die, but their life might be over. Credit.
Their life will be stuck. They'll be like stuck with that debt till like long after like the melee scenes, or the melee scene is like in like the situation it is right now. Probably may not be as popular like decades from now. Hopefully, we'll see how that turns out. Yeah, that sort of thing.
Destroyed, in debt. It's terrible. So they gotta deal with it. Like, it's a gamble to even want to run tournaments. So to have COVID on top of that, I guarantee you, with the amount of stress that TOs deal with, if they could just cancel the event because of COVID, they would. I think they would love to. They would love to just not do it and then wait till it's safe and then do it later. It's a labor of love, chat. Like, they don't make stupid money off
Debt feels good, man.
this. A lot of TOs have gone broke trying to run tournaments.
TOs can look at it, they can even break even. I know like some of the first couple of shines, not all of the shines that have happened here in New England, some of them have lost a lot of money because so much went into like flying out people, paying for like an insanely expensive venue here in Boston. And like, yeah, there were some years where it was just a net loss for the company, where it was like a miracle that even happened the next year. Or we had to like do a bunch of budget cuts for the next one, but the event was sick. We broke even in 2018, I believe. So I'm not a Shine's like head TO. I'm more of like a staff at Shine. I'm not like one of the higher ups. I'm definitely a staff member at Shine. But there are definitely years where like, you know, like the first couple where they were rough because there was so much money poured into it from the org putting it on. But yeah, it could be a lot. And like if you're imagine like that happening at a Boston event like Shine, that would be like that literally would have made the company doing it like shut down even sooner than it like already liquidated itself. Because the company that put on Shine, I think, liquidated its assets now, but that was like more recently. Like back then they were still around, but they'd had some hard times for a little while.
So you're telling me that if they would have a shot to shut it down in the middle of COVID and then save themselves the luxury of going negative for the event, I think they would do it. So when you see Let's Make Big Moves is still going on, Genesis is still going on right now. They're not doing it because they're like greedy and they're putting people at risk. They're doing it.
I remember there was a bit back in the fall. It wasn't like legit, but there was like there was a shit post on Twitter one day where people were tweeting like how TOs are just insanely greedy and they just want players' money so they can like just put on more events and like fuel their own lives. And then we had like a whole like joke bit where like we yelled at our TOs bad. It was actually kind of funny, but this is more of a realistic take on it though.
Doing it because they have a contract and they have to make the event run. And so the best they could do is try to make it as safe as possible for anyone that wants to go. I suggest that the people themselves decide if the event is safe enough for them or not. And if they decide it's not, don't go. And if you can afford to, I would suggest not asking for a refund. Obviously, not everyone's in that same boat and you need the money. Okay, you do what you got to do.
College students know exactly. I've been one of them. There have been events I've registered for that I have not went to. This is like way before COVID was a thing. 2018, I was supposed to go to Super Smash Con. I pulled out because I just couldn't really afford to go. It's just the way it was then. So I had to get my money back from the team. They're very generous for it. They helped me out. It was great. But there are some events where you just can't get that money back, or like you just would rather let them have it because they have to pay for stuff.
But that's it. And then in my mind, that should be what it is. And because I know I'm in a position of influence, I wouldn't tweet that like this event is not safe. This event needs to be shut down. I would never tweet anything like that. And if
It's also like if you tweet that, no matter who you are, I feel like especially at like a larger scale, like Hugs' status is in the Smash scene, he definitely would be attacked by a bunch of different people, like people who probably even know him pretty well, would be like questioning why he said that, because like the status that he has as an influencer in the melee scene specifically, like that would cause some weird looks from people. Like they probably would have like a discussion about that, probably behind the scenes or like behind closed doors about it. Like it's really like you have to word it well, and like you have to make it you want to make it sound like you're not being like really, what's the word here, like an asshole. You don't want to sound like too condescending to, or like you're not really valuing what people are trying to do.
handle it. Smash World Tour had mask required, but people weren't enforcing it that hard. I'm not.
Yeah, I already said earlier, Smash World Tour did a terrible job of it. Like I've heard stories from people who went, it just sounded like it just didn't exist. But here's the issue: Smash World Tour was in Florida. Because the way that Florida's set up right now, which is a fucking disaster when it comes to handling COVID, unfortunately, they're one of the worst spots in the nation. I think they're probably the worst spot in the nation for it right now. Because, like, rules don't exist there for it. I think, yeah, like, there's not really any spots you can get, like, a Band-Aid. Chris, one of my mods here, did go to CEO, and he would have stories about how it was handled there. There weren't really any like major outbreaks that happened from CEO, but the thing was compared to CEO is that it was like a week or two before Smash World Tour. They were both around or in Orlando. It really comes down to who's running the event, really, and like who's like, trying to enforce the rules at that point.
Here's what I'm hoping. I have confidence. I know it's not a popular opinion, but I have some confidence that we got people working hard to figure out this Omicron shit and have some real ideas and guidance and possibly some kind of solution, aka like Omicron booster type shit.
That will come, but the first part of that, I mean, it's gonna come more so down to communities opposed to like the bigwigs of the nation, of how it's been looking. So, well, well, have you seen what people have been tweeting about it? Like, goddamn.
So that things don't have to go all the way lockdown. With vaccinations out, I really doubt that anything's going to go all the way back to lockdown.
I don't think so because my case of a good point there. Omicron, more like omicronically depressed. Fuck. Dude, that's like most people, right? Mike, what the fuck? But it's been rough. People have like definitely been feeling like mentality lows, being rough, because most people who gotten sick are stuck at home for like at least a couple of days and they're just like not feeling great. Like they want to do something, but they can't go out there and do it. So they'd be like locked up here. Some people might even get paid because of how their employers are being very cringe. Because at the end of the day, the reason why we're not going to go back into lockdown is because, well, people got to make money. Corporations especially. So they're not going to shut down, especially even though they probably can afford it. They definitely can't afford it, unfortunately. But allegedly, we'll see how that goes. Because like I feel like places won't shut down for like a couple weeks because allegedly they can't afford it, which I think is cap, in my opinion. And they just want to make more money. Amazon, for example, they will not stop because Bezos wants that money, no matter what it is, by any means. You will keep that open. It's like that Monsters Inc. bit where the spider says like he will let all these people die before he shuts down the company or some jazz like that. It's pretty much like that.
As for me, I'm gonna go to Genesis and then I'm gonna lock down until I get a PCR test like 5 days later, probably 2, just to be sure. So that's pretty much what I'm gonna do, and I have the luxury to be able to do that. I know some people don't have that luxury. So I've seen people say like, like things like if you care about people, the safety of people, you just won't go to Genesis or something. And like, I don't think that's necessarily fair to say. Well, one, I already said why I don't like comments like that being made publicly because again, not the TO's fault. All that comments like that do is hurt the TOs more because the venues are still going to get their money. The TOs are just going to go more broke. I understand what they're doing. They're looking out for the safety of people. I personally I know the situation. I'd rather just let people decide about their own safety and let the TOs up the amount of safety measures as much as they possibly can. And then that's
I'm gonna story the whole video. So yeah, but like I think the moral of this, like the TLDR of this video, is pretty much like it's not really up to the venue. No, it's not up to the TOs here. Their hands are tied. It comes down to one key thing: the venue, city ordinance, and how COVID evolves. Like the TO can't really do anything. So Sheridan with Genesis, he has to follow the trends behind what's going on with COVID, communicate with his team of what they could do to make the event safer for attendees, announce what they're doing, and then see what happens in the weeks to come. Like the past like month has been probably an entire like tornado and a half for Sheridan to deal with because it must have been like up until like end of November, he must have been big chilling like all of us were when it came to Genesis. We were all getting excited. People were signing up. It was all going great. We got like 4,000 attendees of some kind. Omicron wasn't a thing yet. It was really still Delta and like the steadily rising cases. Then December hits and everything goes, and then the Omicron variant nation attack. That's pretty much what happened there. And now we're in a situation where it's like we reported like what 1 million cases the other day just in the U.S. alone, which is okay, Kona. Thanks, you guys. But now we find ourselves in a situation where it's like, I don't know, Sheridan has to like pull something out here where people don't get like too sick. I don't want like a Smash World Tour like Mach 3 here where it like goes absolutely insane and like people get really sick because when the people who go to the tournament go back to their families and there's someone vulnerable in the house, they get them sick. That's gonna be shitty because they got it when they were probably somewhere in San Jose slash NorCal for Genesis. Because it all stems from that. It can make things look really irresponsible if things go wrong. Hopefully this doesn't happen if they keep Genesis in the same date that it's in right now. Because there's that survey that I mentioned earlier that went out. We'll see what happens.
And if you've chosen not to get the vaccine, even though you've been able to get it, you're not told by a doctor that you can't take it, and you're just choosing not to take it for whatever reason. Well, off. Like you're the
True. Yo, true. Yo, anti-vaxxers cringe.
you're part of the reason that we're in this shit. And
Yeah, it's true. Like, I hate to be that guy. Okay, what is like? Okay, let's go with the U.S. U.S. vaccination rate. Can I just see like a graph of it? Yeah. So where are we right now? So the total given for at least fully 62.3, which is not really where we should be. We have been like what at 60% since when? Since about a month ago. And we just broke that after being like in the 50% threshold since since the start of July, basically, or middle of July. So yeah, it's been very, very slow. And this really just needs to go up some more with the way it's gonna. Yeah, like people just need that second dose. Like people just need to accept it. But unfortunately, like what, like 2/3? Well, only like 2/3 of the country, not even, is fully vaxxed. And like that's still like millions of people who have not gotten a shot. That's like literally like what, a small state basically at least of people who just don't want to get it. And like yeah, it's just only gonna lead to more infections. It will not be good. What's my state at? My state currently is at 74.75% fully. So we got like a quarter of the state who are sitting there with their K Kona looking hats, trying to be all like, oh no, that government trying to ruin my freedom. No, I can't do that. Let me do what I want. I'm gonna make people more sick, because that's what I do.
and I haven't had a Christmas in 2 years. I haven't had a New Year's in 2 years. You know how old I am, chat?
Like, okay, Hugo is at least like what? 8 million? Okay, like okay, the Big Bang, for those who don't know, it was Atrioc, God, Hugs, and Biden. That's who was at the Big Bang, for those who don't know. That's like the established like Big Bang lore from like my POV.
I'm tired of this shit. But yeah, so those are my thoughts on the upcoming events. I will be attending Genesis. I won't be attending anything else around that time, I think. When I read that you're going to get fucking yelled
The Genesis 5 run back. God damn, I remember that.
for not having your mask on, I truly believe that's actually going to happen. I think someone there is just going to be yelling at people to get their fucking mask on. You know who they need? They need Lovage to do that. You know what?
You need Lovage, you need Bobak, you need me, you need like the people at SmashCon, you need the people at CEO. Literally any other tournament that knew what they were doing handling COVID during this period should just be at Genesis telling people what exactly they need to fucking do. Whether they might be going already for depending on who is signed up for those events, but you need, like, I'm sure like Patty, who I think has to go to Genesis at this point, people behind Alston Melee who are going to be, because they did the merch, they will do their fucking best to make sure that people are listening to the rules and not being a total dumbass and like trying to just blatantly disobey the rules. I know Bobak is going to be fucking working his ass off about it too. Sheridan probably has like science probably at the ready for people to make sure they're doing what they have to do to stay safe and listen to protocol. Because I feel like if they're just going to disobey the rules, if I'm a TO or like a key figure in the event, I'm going to boot people out who either just don't have any vaccination proof or who are blatantly disrespecting the rule in some way. I want them out. I don't want them risking anything. I want them out of here. Like that would be like my take on it.
Lovage does? Every time at Summit he saw someone without a mask, he'd point at you and he'd go, anti-max, anti-max, anti-vax, you guys. And then he'd sit down. And we just forgot, like we just ate and then we kind of forgot to put it on. And then Lovage would come up to you and call you anti-mask. You'd be like, oh, okay, fine. And you'd put it on.
That's a good approach. That's a very good approach. Shout out to Lovage.
So we need Lovage walking around, chastise.
You should imagine that at Genesis. That'd be sick.
Never.
Get like Lovage and get Lovage and those people I just mentioned and have them like be like the mass patrol basically.
Everybody.
It's like a hall monitor but with masks instead. If you want like a real like mask like mandate squad to just like go around and admin at like the melee, at least for melee at like Genesis. Okay, you get the following people that come to mind right away. You get Lovage, you get Patty, you get Bobak, you get Studebaker Hodge if he's still going. I don't know if he's still going. Who else could be really good at it? Bobby Scar, or maybe Bobby Scar. I'm trying to think of other people. Ringler's not going. I'm not going. Who else could be good at it? Aiden probably, if Aiden's going. feel like Aiden would be really good about it too.
Sorry about the inconsistent streams, but life happens. I was down bad over the last couple days. I'm feeling better.
Brother, we've been down bad since like end of 2019, dude. We're still down bad. It's 2022, but yeah, this is it's a very, very sensitive, very like real and sensitive topic, but also relevant right now for people like myself, Andy, people who are even thinking about going to Genesis at all, or like some kind of big event in the first like month or two of this year. That was a good video. It's a good video. I think it's pretty straightforward. At the end of the day, with like the TLDR that I gave for the video, it's solid. Like I think it's good. So if you like, agree with what Hug said and what I had to say about it, but it's mostly like I was mostly agreeing for the most part, except for like one or two things that was really small compared to anything else going on in the general video. Feel free to like and comment below what you thought. If you like more of these react videos, let me know what you want me to react to for Melee stuff in the future. Happily able to do that. And until next time, I'll catch you guys then. Thanks for watching, everybody.